to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm your host, Tricia Carr. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm excited about today's show, and I'll tell you one reason why, only one reason, and that is because there is a hella fairy energy around here. That's a weird way for me to say it. And actually, hella is not something in my own vernacular. It's something that's from Northern California. But there is a lot of fairy energy around today, at least in my vibration. But if y'all are joining this, whatever day or time that you're doing it, you can connect to the fairy realm too. And yes, fairies are real. If you didn't know that, it's dimensionality overlain with this plane of the natural world. And it is basically the spiritual aspect of nature and animals and all of that kind of stuff. And your nature, by the way. So it's the spiritual aspect of you. Well, anyway, I also wanted to tell y'all about my Mystic Arts Academy. Do please go check it out on my website, triciacarcharm.com. We are doing, at this time, twice per month, our intuitive mediumship development class. It is available to you online as well as local in Los Angeles. The local seats are limited, and well, actually, in that particular class, it's limited anyway. We keep the class small so that we can have a nice, intimate, sacred space to work together. But as folks are, if we, more and more demand comes up, then I'll just add more classes to the roster. So that is going on regularly, twice per month. The next one is the first week of April, I think it is, 2019, as this is being broadcast. And also, I want to tell you about a class. I'm just going to tease this one. It's going to be up in my Mystic Arts Academy to register for. It's going to be happening in April, and it is an advanced workshop. Advanced meaning that it doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of experience. I would say that if you've been meditating, that's, you know what I mean? Like if you have at least 2 months experience meditating, then you would, all levels are welcome. But so far as the concepts are concerned, having opened yourself up to spirit in a real tangible way with meditation would be helpful. And it's going to be an advanced workshop on multidimensional mediumship. So really looking into all the different realms that we can connect to, or the different consciousnesses, different densities, as so like I said, the fairy and elemental realm, as well as the archangelic realm, as well as past loved ones, as well as Gaia herself, as well as star beings, meaning like extraterrestrials. We're going to look into all of that, do an overview of that, and it's going to be amazing. So again, just a tease on that, and there will be advanced workshops once per month starting in April. So that's tomorrow, actually. Today is March 31st. And then one last thing I want to tell you about is that, did you know I have another podcast? I do. It's called Enlightened AF. I mentioned it maybe once or twice on this show. Now, I will tell you that the front face of this show is comedy, and so we do use curse words. And we do sometimes talk about sensuality. I have a host partner. His name is Aiden Demarest, and we just crack up and have the best time, tease each other, and sometimes kind of tease ourselves about our spiritual walk and the way that we kind of act silly. We actually kind of tease the ego a lot is really what we do. And so you can check out Enlightened AF. Just go find it on a podcast, whatever your podcast outlet is, or you can find it on YouTube as well. Just look for Enlightened AF podcast. And we actually do broadcast it live as well. It's on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about today. Before I bring in my amazing guest, she's in studio with me. She's holding down some of that fairy energy today too. We just connect on so many levels. She is an intuitive. She's a breathwork teacher, which I'm so excited for her to tell all of you about, because weirdly enough, shortly before we met, I was getting this message about breathwork, and people were coming to me and asking me for different advice, and I kept hearing, tell them about breathwork, tell them about breath of fire, and I'm like, but I don't even know how to do that. But Spirit just started telling me about it. And so she's also an animal communicator. I called you that. She's an animal healer. She doesn't like to use the word healer. But she's a lot of amazing things. Anyway, her name is Olivia Ray, and she has a website called Intuition Knows Best, and that's what we've entitled this program. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Before I want to say hello to the Lightworkers Lab online spiritual community. We actually broadcast this program right into the Lightworkers Lab. You can find it on Facebook. It's founded by Crystal Ann Compton, my beautiful friend, spiritual teacher and channel. So go find the Lightworkers Lab. Join us. There are a lot of free resources there. Facebook as a group. All right, cool. Now, hi, Olivia.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited too.
Yeah, you look amazing. You guys have to watch this on YouTube. You know, we live stream there, but Olivia's wearing the most fairiest outfit I've ever seen.
Yeah, I did a display of the sparkles.
Yeah, the sparkle. I love the sparkles. So, okay, now breathwork, you've been studying intuitive development for over 2 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And just tell us about your journey, what's been in your work, get us into what's going on in your field.
Yeah, so I don't even know where to begin because it's kind of, this work, as you get deeper and deeper into it, it really becomes something that bleeds into all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And the deeper I've gotten into it, the more I've realized that my whole life has been the training field for it. Yeah. It's just kind of understanding how the experiences that you have in your life really are leading you to what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. So as I've been, in the intuitive development for about 2 years now, I've just been understanding more and more of what my own soul essence is, which allows me to really step into the things that make me passionate, which is, I just launched my website, Intuition Knows Best. Yes. And that's kind of the message of it is I want to build a community where people are understanding the things that light them up and also following the things that light them up. I think in our society, we've kind of been shown a way of being in the world that is more about doing what other people do and following, the trends that have been set out and the ways of being that have been set out. And I think that there's so much magic in just being in the moment and listening to that intuitive voice in your head and following it. When I follow those little intuitive nudges that don't really seem like much in the moment, I actually end up having the more magical days. The little voices that are like, no, instead of doing that thing you thought you had to do, you should go to the park and just be with yourself. And then it opens up this whole other dimension of following myself instead of following what I perceive I should be doing.
Right.
So that's kind of where my journey is leading me. And the breath work has been a huge part of stepping into my own worthiness and valuing myself enough to know that the choices that I want to make and that little voice in my head that tells me what I want to do is worth listening to.
So how...
I just saw a fairy.
Oh, good. You did? Yeah. She's like, yeah, do it. Yeah, go to the park. So how would you tell people, because I get this question a lot, how do you know the difference between the intuitive nudge and that a little intuitive, still small voice of the divine intuition or anxiety or fear?
You said something once that's coming to mind right now, and you said, the voice in your heart, you're going to say it better than I can, but it's like the voice in your heart is quiet. So you have to really move past the fear and the anxiety, which is a lot of the meditation practice where all of that comes in, where the breath work comes in. We hold that fear and anxiety in our body on a cellular level, and it's held there by the experiences that we had. A lot of the times when we were so young, we don't even remember what happened. It's just an energetic signature that has embedded itself in our body, and until we kind of do the work to deprogram that, it will pull us in that direction. So the more that you do the work to deprogram that and also affirm that intuitive voice.
I just saw one too. Sorry, it just saw huge
so
golden
magical.
pair. She just went, yeah. Was it golden?
No, mine was silver.
Oh, I saw golden right here.
My mom's watching. She's going to be like, Olivia sees fairies. I'm concerned.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it in a sec. Go ahead.
Love you, Mom.
Not your mom. We're not going to talk about your mom. We're going to talk about, I'll explain fairies a little bit more.
People
Grounded.
who might be like,
grounded. We're really
seeing fairies.
Yes, exactly. We're not like, going off the reservation here. We'll ground it a little bit. So go ahead.
So it's really, I think it's working through that anxiety and that fear and having the tools that work best for you, because it's different for everyone. For me, it's really been the breath work. When I'm stuck in that fear and anxiety energy, I lay down and I do my conscious connected breathing, and I'm able to see the joy on the other side of the fear. Typically, fear comes up when we're in a place that we're going to move outside of our comfort zone, and our ego mind wants to keep us in that comfort zone.
That is the comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's the programming, as you're saying. Yeah. It's the programming that is about putting the authority outside of yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Conditioning and all that.
Exactly. And so, having practices that work for you to turn yourself back within, to listen to your own authority. And also, the more that you listen to those little intuitive nudges, those quiet things that you're like, oh, I'm going to ignore that, the louder they become.
And the resistance to them becomes louder and more demonstrated. And then we have patterns, and what a lot of people say, I have a block, and it's about, so we have those patterns that are created by, the reason we have patterns that are like the ones that limit us, the ones that are ego based, are because our soul or our spirit is really trying to show us the structure that is no longer serving us. So the house has to become more solid in order for you to recognize there's a door to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that native land is what I like to call it. That's what the meditation or the breath work and the devotional practice and everything, it's having you in your own essence so that you can find that still small voice of the heart, of the true essence, or as Penny Pierce calls it, your home frequency.
I was going to say that.
You are?
Exactly.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, the home frequency feels good once you're
That's
able
what
to
it
access
is.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or as Bashar calls it, the highest excitement.
Yeah.
That's that excited feeling or that joyful feeling, bliss, peace, whatever. All of those emotions are just the natural symptom of being in alignment with your higher self or your soul or, your true essence.
Yeah. And even, in that place, because we're human and we're going to experience things that, we might label as bad, like things happen in our lives. But when we're in that home frequency, we're able to have the elevated perspective of understanding that everything in our life is happening for a reason. And the more you find that home frequency, I think the more you're able to find that elevated perspective as well. Like this is coming up. For me, I had my dog, who was my best friend, pass away 3 months ago. And it was super unexpected and kind of just shocked me and blew my world open a little bit. And I was able, because I've been doing this practice and this work, I was able, and the breath work, I mean, again, I'll give so much credit to the breath work because it helped me move through so much. Because I had these practices to come to in those moments where I was just like bawling on the floor, I was able to also be like, okay, there's a higher purpose to this, like this massive transformation of energy in my life. I can take this and channel it into something creative, something that, serves me. And I created my website from it. So there's always a higher purpose, even though we can get stuck in the grief and the sadness, and we're meant to experience those things. We came here to experience things like that, but we can move through it more quickly than we've been taught.
Get the value out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is there to add value to you.
Serve us. Even, the things that happen that might seem bad, it's just in our lives because it's helping us find our highest learning, which as human beings on this planet, we're just here to learn.
Right.
And we have kind of been taught through our society to label everything and judge everything and place so much, negative or positive associations on things.
Competition.
If we can step back from that and just be like, okay, what is this in my life for? And what is it? What is the energy of it? And what is it trying to teach me with that energy? What is the learning on the other side of this? And when you can see that learning on the other side, it kind of gives you a motivation to work towards. And then you use the tools that you've developed through your own path, because everyone's different.
What kind of tools? I mean, are there any practical tips? Obviously, we're talking about meditation. So how did you start your meditation practice?
That's a great question, because I don't really know.
Yeah, I saw you go, I don't know.
It's just I started my spiritual journey with crystals. And, I was having this discussion with someone the other day. For a long time, I was doing a lot of things that were spiritual bypassing. Okay. But it got me to where I am now.
Let's explain spiritual bypassing, because some folks may not know what that is. Do you?
I don't have a specific definition for it. I just know that for me in the beginning, I loved crystals, and I was really drawn to like sound baths and things like that, but I wasn't going deep.
So spiritual bypassing, or bypassing in general, because we tend to use it in the consciousness community. It's obviously applicable because of the topics we're talking about. But bypassing is essentially using some kind of tool in an inaccurate way to bypass doing your own inner work.
Right.
And so if we're talking about in the context of spiritual concepts or higher consciousness, then we use a spiritual concept to bypass our responsibility or doing our own inner work. What just came to mind as an example is I teach on chakras and, or something like that. And in the lesson about the sacral chakra, we're talking about sensuality and sexuality, feeling, self-gratification. Those are a lot of the concerns and the kinds of energy that the sacral chakra manages. There's more to it, creativity and stuff like that as well. But in the teaching about we need to embrace our biological and spiritual need for sensuality, sexuality, and self-gratification. Yeah. Someone could take that and then cheat on their partner, you know what I mean, and be dishonest because, I'm just following my sensuality and I really needed that. But that's a spiritual bypass because my sacral chakra really needs to open and it's not my fault. Or even something like, I think maybe we're twin flames or soulmates or something like that. They use a real concept, but they use it in a way that actually has them bypass something.
Serving their ego.
Yes, and it's not a holistic experience. Yeah. So yes, of course, there is self-gratification, there is sexuality, spirituality, or sensuality in having a really, following an expression of lust and passion. But if it is actually bypassing the concerns you have in a committed relationship, then it's not a holistic experience of sensuality or sexuality.
Right. And in that example, it's why are you not happy in your relationship, and what is that energy? That's actually what you need to work on.
And that's what if I am having to be dishonest and disintegrated in order to pursue this feeling in my body and my, being about wanting to be with this other person, that's actually that strong feeling is pointing me to where I am right now first, because the disintegration, the deception is not. Yeah. So, the work, it all comes out in the wash. The energy will still be managed because you'll get caught or you'll need to fess up or something like that. And then maybe you've done a little more damage in the process. So anyway, there you go. Spiritual bypassing.
It's up to you. You can keep cycling through the same energies or at one point, and I don't really know what point that was for me, I was like, well, actually I do. I got a reading and it just kind of cracked me open. The person who was doing the reading really looked at me for the first time energetically, and I wasn't able to. When someone is looking at you at your energy, you can't really bullshit with them, because they're looking at your energy. And I had to let go of a whole lot of unconsciousness around all of the stuff that I had been avoiding. And that was kind of the beginning of my true spiritual path. And at that point, I was like, I want to learn everything. And here I am. I've been studying the work for almost 2 years. But the crystals are what started me on it. And I encourage anyone, my room is full of crystals. And if you're drawn to crystals and you don't know anything about this, go to a crystal shop and just buy a couple crystals that called you. It can be the little tiny, I started with a bunch of little tiny tumbled stones. Yeah,
they don't have, size actually doesn't matter as far as concerns the energy of those minerals, because we actually use the tiniest little, almost microscopic chips of quartz crystal in all of our electronics. And it's in all of our electronics because it can hold more information than anything else they could possibly manufacture. So everybody uses crystals, so
but magical.
Yeah, the tiniest, like the chip of sand off of a giant piece of crystal has the same energetic signature as the giant piece. Now the giant piece, we as humans get excited about that because we love shapes and sizes and all of that. So
we're very physically
we're physically
stimulated.
And that's a valuable
physical realm.
That's something that's not like that's cool. That's fine. Yeah. So when a piece is really large and that it kind of enhances your excitement around it, but it doesn't have to be. Actually, I have the little fairy stone that you gave me, and it's a smaller one.
Of course, you have the fairy stone.
Yeah, but if this fairy stone were like. It's so beautiful. If this fairy stone were the size of a boulder, it would have the same energetic signature and power and consciousness. Well, maybe if you separate it, it's going to start developing a slightly different consciousness or personality, but it has the same energy and strength. So anyway, go ahead with small pieces of...
That was perfect, yeah. And they, you most likely won't be aware of what the crystals are doing for you in the beginning, but like you're saying, they have this energetic signature, and as you get deeper into your spiritual practice, your sensitivity builds. And eventually, you'll start to notice, oh, when I have this crystal on me, it kind of shifts my vibration in this way. So they're little placeholders for energetic signatures, and they can really help someone on their spiritual path, especially people who are on the more unconscious end, which I was in the beginning when I started working with crystals. They are kind of always working with you to reprogram your subtle energy bodies. And for me, that was the beginning.
Have you taken a class or anything like that? Or are you self-taught?
Not on crystals.
Me neither,
I had a friend who was like, here, hold this. Look at it, and what does it make you feel? And talk to it. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
you can do that.
Actually,
it's so
talk
simple.
To it. Yes.
Yeah.
I actually, what I like to do, I haven't taken a specific class, and it's kind of like you start to remember the names of them, and that's all great and everything. But I actually like being a bit ignorant as I go into, because I will. For one example, is I was developing the curriculum for my Meet Your Nature Elemental Guides class. And I was like, okay, I want to go with each of the elemental realms and communicate with them and ask them what should go in this. And so I was like, okay, what crystal or crystals? And I went and I have a bunch, you know what I mean? Like they're all there, and some I give away to people, and then some just saying like, I'm ready to be used. And so I went and picked one. I didn't know the name of it even. And I started working with it, and I kind of like did the first bit channeling from gnomes about what we could talk about in that particular part of the program. And then I went and looked up. I had to Google it and everything. And it was, and now I know it really well. I just gave you a piece of it. It was aventurine. So and the thing that I Googled, I was like, okay, it's aventurine. The very first, like someone's little blog about it, they said, helps you to connect and communicate with the elemental realms.
Of course.
And I was like, and so that, had I already known that, then I would have missed that experience of recognizing that. So anyway, just so you know, you don't have to know anything about crystals.
I think that is so important as you're on your spiritual path. And that's kind of what I want to build with my website, Intuition Knows Best. Don't place so much value on what other people have said. We'll see like an animal that jumps out at us, and we'll like look up the spiritual meaning of it.
But allow that to be a jumping off point for you and what you feel about it.
I want to encourage people to like take a moment in that time that you're like, whoa, that animal just like jumped out, and I feel like it's sending me a sign. Don't jump on Google and look up what it means to other people. Be with yourself and ask your spirit, what is this communicating to me? Like, what is this spirit animal or this crystal that's speaking to me in this moment trying to hold space for me, so that I can come into higher recognition of myself?
And when you do use the tool, and like you say, if you're with yourself first, or even a dream, if you have a dream, write it down first, feel into it. And then if you use a reference again, when I look up a dream symbol, I kind of even skim. If I'm reading through a symbol, I skim through. I'm like, nope. Oh, that is starting to resonate a little bit as to what this means to me. And then I actually put it away, because I just allow the resonance of whatever started with that explanation of the symbol to make it unfold what it really means to me.
Yeah.
Same thing with working with a practitioner. You know what I mean? Like their job is really to hold space to have you recognize it. Because you won't recognize it if you don't recognize it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like even if I said the exact right thing, it's not going to, if you don't recognize it, it won't happen.
If you're not ready for it, it's not going to. That's something that I've learned too. I'll hear things multiple times, and until I'm ready to really integrate it into my own experience, it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, the whole power of really leaning into your intuitive space and starting to shift your perspective to what other people are perceiving, and instead to what you're perceiving and why you're perceiving it that way. And it really starts to make life, like my friends would say, I probably use magical more than the word magical more than anyone that I know. And it's because I've kind of shifted the perspective of my life in a way that I let things be magical, just little things throughout my day. And for me, it's made life a lot more enjoyable.
That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
The reason we want to do anything.
Little things.
is because, how does Abraham Hicks, she always says, the reason that you want the things that you want is because you believe that you will feel better by the having of them. So feel better now.
Exactly.
Then you've already completed the whole manifestation process.
And just know that everything in your reality in this moment is there because it's leading you to where it's leading you to where you're going and where you already are. Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted by my earbud falling out. I don't know what I was saying.
No, I think you did it. So let's talk about breath work then.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how would you explain this to people? I haven't actually taken one of your classes yet.
I've started for you.
In my own practice, my own meditation, I've started just using some techniques, either ones that are my own intuitive, like, guidance system showing me. I've looked up a few. I've heard about a few just incidentally.
Yeah.
But talk about that.
So there's so many different forms of breath work, and it's an ancient practice, like going back to India. And honestly, I'm not super familiar with the yogic principles of breath work. You know, I've done them in yoga classes, but I'm not trained in that. The breath work that I utilize is a form of breath work called holotropic breathing. And it was originated, there's lots of speculation on when it originated, but Stanislav Grof, he was a huge pioneer of this, as well as Judith Kravitz, and she does a form that's called transformational breath work. And what it basically is it's conscious connected breathing. So it's a 2-part breath into the belly and into the chest. And as you do this, you're shifting the energy in your body, and you're moving from this lower energy space where we tend to store the more dense physical emotions into the higher energy space. So when you do this with a trained practitioner, the practitioner is able to tell you the places that you're holding your breath, what that might indicate, and also able to just give you little cues to shift into breathing more deeply into those places where we tend to hold our breath. Breath is like life force, right? The more that you breathe it in, the more life force you have. And most of us are walking around holding our breath all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Like when's the last, seriously, if you're watching this episode, just like pay attention, like is your stomach sucked in? My stomach, I'm not breathing right now. And like, it's like, just take a moment and take like deep breath all the way down into the pelvic floor, all the way up into the chest, into the throat, out through the top of the head. And just that one breath is able to shift your reality. So imagine laying down for 25 minutes and doing nothing but breathing. You're giving this really beautiful sacred space to yourself to just commit to shifting your energy. And for me, I have probably said this a million times now on this one podcast, but it has been the most powerful tool for stepping into my own worth. I think that in our society, again, we're told to place our worth outside of ourselves and compare it to other people, especially women. I have been doing a lot of readings on women, and the same thing keeps coming up. It's this energy of starting to recognize our own power, starting to recognize that we are perfect exactly as we are, and we're meant to show up in that signature of who we are, and let these pieces of ourselves that we tend to like hide in the shadows, we're supposed to let them out. Because it's really healing for other people.
Right.
So what breathwork has given me is the ability to really start to show up as who I really am. It's powerful stuff.
Well, yeah, you think about, like you said, it is life force energy. It's not just an example of it or a metaphor for it. It's literally
life force.
It's literally
energy.
Life force. And that's why meditation practices are always about connecting with the breath, visualizing the breath. I mean, sacred texts, God breathed the breath of life into Adam, and then he became a human being.
Wow.
And, of course, that's Torah and Old Testament, but it's still quite beautiful, that is the moment that – it's not that this is the moment that there was consciousness or that there was light or something. It's when the person became a being, like a human being. It is being. Yeah, it is being. It is the nature of being. One thing that I love about breath is that it proves, it is sacred. Like you're saying, it helps you to connect with your authenticity because it's yours, 100%. It can't be anyone else's. It shows you how faithful you are to the universe and to life, and how faithful life is to you. It's always there.
Yeah.
It's always there, and you're always with it. It is the most intimate relationship.
At all times, we have an endless supply of breath or life force.
The fairy that I saw over here,
we're not choosing to tap into it.
I just recognized. I remember when I saw her, it was like a feminine energy. I was like, oh, it's an air fairy, and I didn't disconnected with me. Why? I didn't even think about it at the time. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So yes, it's so people can start to do this work on their own. Being with a practitioner, obviously, you can elevate your understanding and your connection with it.
Even, you don't have to do the 2-part breathing is really, really powerful for moving and shifting stuck energy, especially stuff. You don't have to become conscious of all of the stuff that you're shifting. There's a lot of old patterning that we carry in our cellular structure that just needs life force.
Needs airing out.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
To shift it. So doing the breath, it's almost like you're taking this moment to send out that message to yourself that you're ready to let go of this. So you don't have to be aware of all of the stuff that shifts out. So that breath is really powerful, and I encourage everyone to try it. But if you don't have access to something like that, just sitting with yourself and consciously breathing for 5 minutes will be a really powerful way, especially to start the day. And just getting making that commitment
to the wonderful sensation of it's so like the abundance of it.
Yeah.
If you can imagine either eating or drinking the most delicious thing ever when you're really hungry or thirsty, that's what the breath is every single time if you can bring awareness to it.
That's so good. Because, I feel like we live in a society that's spiritually starved. That's why there's so much depression. There's so much, substance abuse. And the breath is this thing, that is so abundant and readily available that we can tap into at any time. But no one tells us that.
You know what? So I have some things going on health-wise, and Spirit told me, I'm like looking into how do I heal this on an energetic level, or how did, what does this mean energetically? And the protocol that I was offered, one was literally working with breathwork and my meditation and stuff like that. Another was starting to bring back my practice of running. I'm a trail runner as a lifetime practice, but I've been away from it because I had a couple of injuries and some different reasons why. And then after that happened, then it was like, I don't have time, which is obviously untrue because time is an illusion, but I don't have time. And so I wasn't giving myself the liberty to be able to connect with something that I just love. And it's always been there for me, and singing. And all of those are so breath oriented.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah. When I was studying voice, I was doing so much healing, and it was obviously clearing out my throat chakra and my expression, but it was so much breath. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No. Well, and it spoke to me too that all of those things are things that you take to give time to yourself.
Yes,
strictly to yourself. And they're things that affirm like the intuitive things that light you up. They're things that affirm that path.
Yes.
So I think that there's so much healing that comes again in just following your intuition and trusting yourself.
Well, yesterday you and I had lunch with a friend of ours, David Gandelman, who's been on the show. And I was thinking when I came home from having lunch, because we didn't plan to, we just kind of went and had lunch and spent time together. And I was like, gosh, I never do that. I shouldn't say never, but I typically have something else. Like something is work oriented, or it's, you know what I mean? Like some other kind of thing. But we just kind of did that.
Just hung out.
Right. I do it with Brian, with my husband at the end of the day. That's just, we live together. So when you have to stop working, then you're with each other. But Jeroen DeWitt, who was on recently, he says he's been talking a lot to his clients lately about just for the fuck of it, like doing something for the fuck of it, having fun. And so that's what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal, but it's like, it's so sad that it's a big deal that I just had lunch for no reason, just to hang out with a couple of friends.
Well, I think
so silly.
You have this amazing metaphysical business, and
I love it so much.
and that's the thing.
And it's hard for me to, it's hard for me to see where business and pleasure intersect, and when I need to do something that has nothing to do with, because my business is so pleasurable.
Right.
So that's why it gets confusing.
Beautiful. Yeah,
so I'm learning that balance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know you're reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural. And
so good.
I am right now too. And he talks about a kind of a breath technique.
Where you breathe into each energy center.
Yes. I've been doing that one lately too, to work with what's going on with me energetically and physically. And that one is essentially you breathe deeply into get the book and read it. You breathe into the pelvic floor, and then with your physical muscles, you squeeze the root chakra, so down at the base, squeeze the sacral, squeeze the solar plexus, and then visualize the breath going out the top of your head. Amazing. And you don't stop the breath at all. So as you're breathing in, you're tensing those muscles, and then the release. So there's no hitch in it at all. And he's talking about when you're squeezing those energy centers, because we do hold so much density, so much over focus on the lower functions.
Yeah.
You know, the base functions. It's not to say that we shouldn't be focusing on those, but that's what awakening is. Yes, balanced and
you want to be grounded,
expansion,
but you also want to be connected to those higher aspects of self, and it becomes really powerful when you're grounded enough to channel those higher aspects of self into the physical, and create real change.
And that's been really helpful. There's also one called infinity breath, which really has a lot to do with just visualization, where you are breathing in and it makes if you look at your body on the side, it makes an infinity symbol going around, basically going through the heart, circling through, going through the root or lower chakras, coming back through the heart, and then circling around up to the head.
Cool.
And it's in a continuous breath as well.
Cool. That kind of sounds like I practice Qigong, and there is something called the microcosmic orbit, and you do a breath in Qigong that rotates the microcosmic orbit, which, as I've tuned into it, it's almost like you're rotating the Merkaba that exists in your energy field, and it feels like the infinity breath is very in line with that. So that sounds super powerful.
Tell us about Qigong, because I don't practice that a little bit or whatever, however you practice it.
Well, I don't feel super, it's new, you know, it's been for like the past 3 months, and I'm not incredibly knowledgeable in it. My teacher is amazing and knows everything about it.
What is it? Is it look a little bit like Tai Chi? You use your body, right? Okay.
So it's an energy practice, but it's a physical energy practice. So again, it's really, like we were just talking about, it's really powerful for bringing that energetic shift into the physical world, for grounding it into the physical, because you do a lot of meditation with your eyes open.
Oh, cool.
So you're connecting to the physical, but you're above the physical.
Right.
So it's a powerful
So it's
practice.
expansion. Because if we're connected to the physical and also meta, we're above the physical, then that is literally expansion.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think is a message that where we are in the kind of moving in the spiritual community or the higher consciousness community, because as folks start to open up to it and they do start to maybe use some spiritual bypassing, and that's a phase, and it's
so normal.
It's so normal,
and it gets you to where
you're
going.
They're coping mechanisms when you're using like some spiritual bypassing or bypassing in any way. Again, you could use a political concept to bypass some inner work, and you know what I mean. Like even if you're not in that kind of higher consciousness specific kind of seeking. So like what I think a message there for folks that are kind of in that phase of it is because part of the spiritual bypassing, I hear people say like, oh, I don't know how to stay in 5D, or I don't know how to anchor 5D to 3D. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's not it. We're not like supposed to be rejecting it. Fuck you, 3D. You know, that's not the point. It's actually both. The more that we become, it feels at first when we kind of when we have an awakening, and we have them our entire life. But the first one, it's kind of like that first time you fall in love. And it's actually a little scary, and it's a little exciting, and you don't know what to do about it, and what if it ends, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
you
all
grip
that
on
stuff
so tight.
Yeah, it literally is, because falling in love for the first time is an awakening. You're awakening in the heart chakra in a new way. You're also awakening in all of the sacral and all of that too. And so you you're in that, and you popped open some of that ascended or the higher expanded energy. And then it's interesting. I have clients, and they'll be like, but now I feel like I'm in a slump, you know what I mean? Because they've gone through that kind of big, powerful awakening. And I'm like, but then they recognize like, oh, wait, I'm still having pretty amazing things happen in my life. And, even if it's evidences like I see 11:11 all the time, even that, those are small little evidences, but when they first opened, that would bring them to tears. You know what I mean? They recognized that.
I think the important
thing, It's both.
Yeah,
that's expansion is expanding into being human as well as being spiritual, because that is the spiritual.
Here. Yeah, I think that there's so much, especially in like the super woo-woo spiritual crowd, and I experienced this. I mean, I still sometimes experience this. It's like, this physical body is gross. Like, why am I even here? But we chose to be here on this planet for a really special reason. Like the place that we're in right now as a collective society is so cool, because people are awakening and we're shifting, and people are more open to these concepts than they've ever been. And even if they're not open to the concepts, they're still kind of interested.
Yes.
They're like,
curious.
This girl's crazy, but I'm just gonna listen a little
but
bit
it feels, her weirdness feels good to me.
There's truth. Yeah, there's truth in it. There's truth in someone saying, hey, that voice in your head that you ignore, that's your truth, and you're meant to follow it. And like, I just want to give people the freedom to follow their truth, really.
And I remember that was like pre-awakening experiences for me, like hearing someone talk about their experiences with spirit and everything, and just like listening to them and being like, wow, she's saying crazy things, but she's not crazy. What does that mean? And I remember literally saying, what do I know? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And maybe that person has a sensitivity that I don't have. I was just like going, I don't want to have this sensitivity. And I had this filter on it because I put those filters on when I was little.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's the thing is like, again, that holding that authentic home frequency for someone, for yourself, then someone just feels it.
Which activates other people
to feel it for themselves. That is how literal energy is. If we are able to be really authentically ourselves, it's an offering to someone else, because energy is like, you know, it's like a sea, you know what I mean? Like if you swim past someone that's peed, you're going to feel that warmth.
Which, you know, on this note, I want to say it's really easy to talk about being in your home frequency and authentic truth, but I have days all the time that I don't know what my authentic truth is, and I have to do a lot of work to move past all the things.
It's like, where is it? Is it over there?
Yeah, I'm like, wait, I had it last night. Where did it go? Yeah. And there's things that we've taken on, and we have to really look at them. And once we look at them, they start to shift. But the more that we avoid them, the louder and more persistent they become. So I just want to like, also on the same note of being like, just be yourself. I want to acknowledge that like, it's not as simple as that. And it is as simple as that.
It is.
At the same time.
The hardest thing is for us to allow things to be simple, because it is simple.
So true.
But we have all of this complexity built up about what it means to stay alive. I mean, because that's what the ego at its most basic function and healthy function is, just to keep us physically alive and to activate a survival mechanism, you know what I mean? Like a physical survival mechanism. That's all cool and good. And it is a part of our spiritual purpose. It's a main part of our spiritual purpose, because evidence of the fact that we are here. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's the deal. But it's when it's all of the things that are bloated that are attached to that, which aren't true. You know what I mean? Like getting a parking space is not attached to your survival, right? But sometimes guys will punch each other out for that.
Yeah, but and then there's the irrational anger, which comes in so many people's lives, irrational anger, irrational fear. And it's really just trying to point you within to the cause of that, so that you can
release it and feel free.
Just look at it and let it be what it is, and understand that it is expressing itself in your reality, because there's meaning to it, and it's meaning that applies specifically to your life. So that's when it comes back to like, you can't really place those instances outside of yourself, because then it gets confusing. You're like, oh, but when it happened to this person, this is what they experienced, and none of that matters. It's about what you experience from that emotion and where it's trying to lead you. So it's great to have spiritual people who you trust, that you can look to as maybe a little bit of guidance and just an example of how to get there, and take their tools, I think, is the best thing you can do.
Well,
from
they
spiritual
themselves
teachers.
are tools.
Absolutely.
Having spiritual teachers in the form of a book or a podcast or having a session or something like that. Yeah. So take their tools. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, take their tools and make them your own.
Yes, exactly. We don't
figure out what works for you.
We don't try to. I mean, because that's something that I did my entire life. Because you have to go to school and be there for 8 hours a day. Yeah. And I do
things the way other people do. We're taught that if you adhere to this structure of how to be, the better you adhere, the better grades you get. The more validated you are,
and then
the
you
more
will
you're
survive.
Able to conform. Conformity is survival, and that is such bullshit.
It's not true.
I get really passionate about this topic specifically. But I want to give people the freedom. It is time to like break free of those programs of constriction and thinking that like what it used to be is what it always will be. None of that exists anymore. We're in this, the 5D terminology. What it really means to me is that we can create whatever we want.
Well, we're supposed to create what we want in the true divine sense of that wanting, again, with the heart's voice, the still small spirit of God or the universe or whatever, that is your home frequency, your authentic experience. I always talk about the seed information. I like to say I'm a teacher of nature and spirit. You know, I teach because those are the same. Nature is spirit, is nature, is spirit, is nature, is spirit. Yeah. And we are natural, and being what we may call more spiritual or whatever is just being more natural.
Right.
And so I talk about it as the seed information. The information inside a seed is non-physical. It's just a code. It's an essence. It's spirit. And it actually is what becomes form. And it makes a sprout that is so tender that it becomes eventually strong enough to break a hard shell of a seed and to move through the soil. And then the soil, it's sending out its own energy by feeling into its own seed information, its own energy more and more. It sends that signal out, and then the soil, the universe, the ecosystem starts to bring it what it needs. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be exactly what it is as it comes through the soil and then expresses its essence or its fruit or whatever it is. That then serves the ecosystem. One time when I was trying to decide how to shift my diet and everything, and so I was meditating, I was like, what diet system should I look at? I was asking my guides, what system out there should I look at for my diet? And very gently, guidance said to me, does the bear ask the tree how it should eat? No, the bear asks the bear.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I went on a thing for a while.
No, I love it when you go on things. Take it all in.
Well, you have been actually attending my intuitive mediumship development class. It's so cool too, because your mediumship so just like pops.
Yeah,
so cool.
Unexpected and something that I really never had any intention of exploring.
It's that easy having the. So you had the intention, and that's the space that we're all holding, was to practice that. In addition to the other kinds of intuitive readings that you have been working in, and so it's just the intention. It's the space.
And sometimes it's really expanded my intuitive readings because traditionally I'm looking at people's energies, but sometimes there's a being in their field. Maybe it's a past loved one or maybe it's a spirit guide, and they want to come through and share a message that's going to help shift the energy that we're looking at. Well,
because the beings, even like you and I, as we're connecting on a frequency of truth, love, bonding, we're reflections of one another, and the feelings we have that are loving and exciting and resonant, really. Resonance is resonance. That means resonance with the entire universe, resonance with your higher self, alignment. And so the beings that are in other kinds of formations of energy, where it's a different dimension or whatever, is a reflection of them. So you're looking at their energy. It's very natural to then communicate with an example of it in the way of a person or a consciousness that is, that's what I love about it, because I'm here banging around trying to talk to people. And so I'd like to bang around and talk to other realms too.
Yeah,
why not?
Why not? Yeah. It's all available to us.
Exactly. And then, so you are doing your breath work in person here in Los Angeles. She's actually going to do a class at my studio, at least really soon. And I hope regularly too. Is it something that can be offered distance-wise, remote-wise?
It can. My one-on-one sessions I offer remotely, which is on my website.
Okay.
And I actually find it's almost more powerful to do one-on-ones remotely because I'm doing energy work with the person's higher self as they're doing the breath work.
Right.
And when I'm doing that remotely, the energy work is more powerful because I'm not as connected to their physical experience.
Yes. There's always something to, I like both working with students or clients in person as well as remotely. You just find some different aspect to enhance, and it works out. So cool. We'll be able to do that. We'll be able to offer your class to online participants too, when you're ready or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I hadn't thought about. I don't know. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about a group
teasing. Yeah, because I have a lot of online students. Yeah, that's typically.
One-on-ones are always available, and one-on-one in person is great too, because then I'm able to work with people more on the physical aspect of where the breath is going and where it's blocked. And I also want to say, your ability to take in breath really represents your ability to take in the positive in life.
Yes, to live.
So the more that you're willing to just fill your belly up, notice, are you resistant to filling your belly up? Because we're taught, especially as women, to suck our bellies in, flat tummies, don't let your belly stick out. And how resistant are you to just filling your belly with air and letting it, be I don't know if you can see my belly right now, but letting it stick out. And that really represents your willingness to breathe in the good in life. On the exhale, the more that you push that exhale, it's representing how you handle negativity in your life. If you are like pushing the exhale and forcing that exhale away, it kind of is symbolic to how you push negativity away instead of just like letting it fall away gently, which is what I encourage people to do with the breath. Just let it fall out.
Oh my gosh, that is brilliant, because I did an episode of probably a couple months back, maybe longer, about using how we actually use negative energy to manifest. And so when I say negative, I don't mean like evil or bad. It's not a judgment. I mean more on the so far as physics is concerned, there are negatively charged energy. There's energy is negatively charged and positively charged, and there's also neutral energy, and that is a perfect model of what the breath is too, because the breath is okay. So the breath is two parts, right? It's expansion and it's contraction, right? But it's not just two parts; it's actually three, because the apex, the expansion, and then right before the breath is released, that's kind of like a full gratitude, abundant feeling. Yeah. And then on the release, and that apex, that's a neutral place of being able to start to manifest something new and to receive. You know what I mean? Like and that's how energy actually expresses too. So negative energy, we don't really have to think about using negative energy to manifest. And I think sometimes that's what we actually do. We think negative energy is what disintegrates. It like pulls things apart. Positive actually integrates and brings things together. Well, negative energy we need in order for nature to cycle, right? We need dematerialization too. But we tend to think, I hate my job and I want to destroy it and, like I want to kill it. And it's like, but no, we want to bring in the positive job that will displace it and allow that to dematerialize naturally. Yeah. And that's
focus on what you want.
Yes.
Instead of what you want to
building.
see.
And the building, and we allow negativity to happen. We allow the negatively charged energy. And that's what you're saying. Allow the breath to release rather than pushing it out.
Yeah. That's kind allow it to flow away from you, and know that as you inhale, everything that you need will be provided. And as you do, the conscious connected breathing sessions, I'm calling it intuitive breath work.
I love it.
Merging the two worlds. As you do it, you'll recognize like your mind will try to talk you out of it in the beginning, and then your body will get all weird and sometimes tense up. Sometimes people's bodies like tingle all over the place. And eventually you hit this point where the breath just becomes automatic and you feel just the pure joy and creation and just beauty of life in your body. And being in that vibration, even for, the 5 minutes that you're in it, it really allows you to carry that frequency. The more you do it, the more that you're carrying that frequency in your body, and the more you have that really, joy, bliss, that lower vibrations can't stay in your body when you're channeling that energy.
And exactly. The imbalanced, dense ones that, yes, exactly.
So it just starts to clear automatically. And that's why I love the breath. And I think the breath is if you can't sit down and meditate, like your mind just drives you crazy, breath is where to start. Because once you really master your breath, then you're able to move into the meditative space so much more easily.
Just the visualization that I got of you talking about the dense or the lower energies can't stay in your body if you bring the breath to it. I was just thinking about like when you have to clean your sink and there's like food particles and all the crap, stuck. Yeah. If you have a beautiful flow of water, it just moves it down. It can't stay there. Yeah. And what's interesting is that those food particles or the dirt or something is denser, is heavier than the quality of water. But we have enough of the water and it actually just moves it naturally down in a really in a fluid way, but in a holistic way too, where we could take each piece and kind of try to scrape it down, and it's not really, it's a lot of work.
Make it messier. Or we could just breathe into it and let it flow away. And that's kind of like the nature of our beings. We're not meant to hold on to all the dense stuff. Right. But we were kind of born into a society that didn't give us the tools to release the densities. Yeah. And on top of that, also kind of throws more densities at us in the form of food and media, and there's so much stimulation in our society that it's really hard.
Distraction.
I don't want to use the word hard. Yeah, it's really distracting and becomes confusing, and we don't have the tools to come to that home frequency that we've been talking about. Right. Which is why I love the breath so much, because I think it is the most simple way to start understanding your home frequency.
And there's no confusion about it. It just
breathe. Just lay down and breathe.
Yeah, everyone has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you've moved on, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
All right, we are actually over time, and we could keep Kurt here all day long, but we shan't.
Talk about this forever.
All right, so Olivia, tell everyone how they can connect with you, and you're offering one-on-one services.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes. So I'm at OCreator on Instagram. And my website just launched. It's Intuition Knows Best. I'm going to have a blog on there soon, but it's not up yet. So stay tuned. And yeah, this is my first podcast. Do I tell them anything else?
I think you told us a lot, and it's amazing.
Okay, cool.
They can find you on Intuition Knows Best. And if you come to some of my classes, she is usually there as well. Yes. All right. Well, I guess that does it for today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to see all of the work that you're doing, the community that you're building around your work, and how you're just helping and serving. And to do it in my studio, I'm so excited for that too. And to learn from you myself.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm learning immensely from you.
Actually, I have to say that the way that we met was at a horse.
I can't believe we didn't talk about that.
At a horse sanctuary called Sapphire, Saffyre. It's in Southern California, but go check it out. Donate some money to support them.
So much money. They're really, they're really an amazing organization.
They are. So, okay. Now that truly will do it for this episode. Again, please check out my website, TriciaCarrCharm.com, and subscribe, like, share, comment on YouTube, youtube.com/Tricia Carr, and on the podcast, Charmed Life with Tricia Carr. And I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.